Rise of Insanity is described as a first-person psychological horror game. Sadly, that couldn't be further from the truth. This game is now part of an ever-growing family of desperate indie titles trying to fit within the crowded horror genre. During my less than 2 hours of playtime, I was not only disappointed but also puzzled as the game felt unoptimized in some places, unfinished in others, and downright cliché throughout. You control Dr. Stephen Dowell, a psychologist who, according to the Steam store description, is faced with a difficult patient who shows distinct yet contradictory symptoms of different mental disorders. Unfortunately, it's made quite clear soon after the start of the game that Rise of Insanity is nothing short of boring. The narrative found within this title is, simply put, banal. It only took me a matter of minutes to figure out how this story was going to end. As I delved deeper into the pit of broken ideas which is this game, I discovered some truly terrifying things. Poorly written characters, incorrect subtitles, terrible optimization, and more. Everything felt sloppy. It doesn't help that Rise of Insanity is roughly 2 hours long. For a game that prioritizes story over gameplay, it's honestly sad to see how underwhelming and predictable the narrative is. To be fair, the description of the game alone should be more than enough for any player to piece together the big twist ending. What hurts even more is that Rise of Insanity uses and misrepresents mental illness to push its story forward. It uses the tired and somewhat offensive idea that mental illness equals psychotic killer. The game attempts to offer the player psychological depth, though it's clear it stumbles upon its own feet, cherry-picking whatever mental illness and personality traits it can to make a character who is, for some reason or another, a psychotic killer who murdered his own family. You can also expect to find discrepancies between notes found in-game, the subtitles, and spoken word. You could be listening to a character speak only for the in-game subtitles to say a completely different thing or contain spelling mistakes. Such blatant issues shouldn't be present in a fully released title, especially once it's left early access and had more than enough time to knuckle down and smooth out any of those rough edges. The characters are also woefully underdeveloped and even just hard to listen to at times due to the poor performances. A standout example would be the child voice actor present throughout much of the game. The line delivery is so bad and laughably weak that every time he spoke, I was just dragged out of the experience, and it reminded me that I'm playing something that just isn't worth my time.
Daddy, play with me.
You've probably noticed that I've yet to talk about what kind of game this is or how it even plays, though I'm sure what I've shown you so far should be a big enough clue as to answer that. This is a very simple and linear game, and although that's not inherently bad, Rise of Insanity is. You'll be spending most of your time navigating from room to room, solving the most basic of puzzles while also reading various texts and listening to the odd audio recording here and there. Regarding the puzzles, there isn't really much to say, to be honest. From what I remember, they mainly involved unlocking doors and finding codes, and that's literally it. You'll be hard pressed to find any kind of difficult gameplay scenario in this game. I should also mention that you're never in any danger when playing. As you breeze through the game, there are no enemies to hide from, no chase sequences to be found, or anything vaguely interesting to play through. If Rise of Insanity wanted to go down the route of which its story is the centerfold, then that's perfectly fine. The issue here is that the story can't stand on its own as something worth paying attention to, and with the lack of gameplay, there really is nothing here worth experiencing. A game like this depends on a well-written, coherent story, where atmosphere, strong visuals, and tension is used to keep the player stuck in their seat. Rise of Insanity fails to accomplish this. On the topic of atmosphere and visuals, it would be remiss of me not to mention how plain, and at times ugly, this game can look. I would need an extra hand or two just to count the amount of times I stumbled upon a weird visual artifact or something else as I played through each level. Also, I should probably mention this moment here in which the game obviously intends for me to go through this particular door that's in front of me, though I had other ideas. I wanted to go exploring. Sadly, this would only end in tragedy as I would eventually walk through a wall and after a few minutes, fall through the map. Though it made me realize something. Throughout my entire playthrough, I had noticed how poorly the game was running. As I fell through the map for countless minutes beyond end, I couldn't help but wonder why the developers would render out such a huge environment that not only contains colliders of which the player can walk upon, but that the player wasn't even meant to gain access to or even see at any point in the level. Would this not be classed as a waste of resources? Was this one of the reasons why the game was running so poorly? Not only on this level, but in most of the others too. I couldn't say for sure, and I'm certain it's not due to the hardware I'm using to run the game, as my computer makes use of an i7-6700K and a GTX 1080. For those who don't know what that means, to put it simply, I have more than enough computing power to play this game. I think I'm done. As a horror title, Rise of Insanity fails on nearly every level. The story leaves a lot to be desired. The puzzles are trivial at best, as is the overall gameplay, which consists of cheap jump scares that take place in terribly optimized environments that at times made me feel physically ill. Don't buy this game. Thanks for watching.